At the outset, I would like to offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Loving Sai Ram and greetings from Prashanti Nilayam. When I broke off last time, I was telling you about Rama's attempts to cross the ocean in order to invade Lanka. I told you about Rama waiting for the Lord of the Ocean, how the latter delayed his appearance, following which Rama became rather angry, etc. I also told you how eventually the Lord of the Seas did appear and suggested to Rama that the best way of crossing the ocean was to build a bridge, and that there was in fact a Vanara and Sugriva's army who could do it. Thereafter, the bridge was quickly built, and when it was completed, there was great exhilaration among the Vanaras. However, not wanting to waste time in celebrations, Rama ordered the army to cross over to Lanka immediately. That's where I stopped, and I shall now pick up from that point. Soon, Rama and his entire armed forces were on the other side, having at last actually entered enemy territory. Far away in the horizon could be seen the outlines of the city of Lanka, and as Rama stood gazing at it, he felt a tinge of sadness. Hidden somewhere there was his dear Sita, suffering both physically and mentally. How long would it be before that pain ended, he wondered. Turning to Lakshmana, Rama then briefly described the history, the grandeur and the wealth of Lanka. There were, however, more pressing matters. Quickly changing gear, therefore, Rama began to issue detailed instructions to the various regiments of the army regarding how they would proceed, from where they would launch their assaults, and how they would coordinate with each other. As mentioned earlier, having been included in Rama's party, Ravana's envoy, spy, Shuka, who had been apprehended earlier, came along with Rama. Now that the ocean had been crossed, Rama asked Sukha to be set free so that he could go back to Ravana and deliver the message he was supposed to. Trembling with fear, Sukha appeared before Ravana and said, "Lord, as commanded by you, I delivered your message to Sugriva. However, it appears that matters have moved far beyond the point of no return. The monkeys have built a bridge across the ocean, as a result of which Rama and his powerful army are now almost at our doorstep. Believe me, Rama is invincible. There is only one safe option open to us: to restore Sita back to Rama and avoid war. Otherwise, all of us have to perish in battle." This was hardly the kind of report that Ravana expected from Sukha. Roaring in fury that he would never give up Sita, Ravana, who wanted more intelligence concerning the enemy forces, then said to Sukha and Sarana, another of his ministers, "Something unprecedented and impossible has happened. A bridge has actually been built across the ocean, and crossing it, Rama and his forces have now entered our island. With the enemy so close, it's absolutely imperative that we have reliable information about the exact strength of his forces. We do not have a moment to lose. I want you to immediately enter the enemy's camp unseen, obtain an estimate of the size of the army, assess the general morale, gather all the information you can about the weapons Rama and Lakshmana have, and who the commander-in-chief of the army is. Leave immediately and return quickly with all this strategic information." Disguising themselves as best as they could, Sukha and Sarana approached Rama's camp. But unfortunately for them, they were easily spotted by Vibhishna, who promptly had them arrested. When Vibhishna brought the detainees before Rama, The latter gently asked who they were. Sukha and Sarana said, "Sire, we both have been sent by Ravana to obtain strategic information about your army, etc." Rama laughed and responded, "Have you collected all the information you were supposed to, or is there anything you still have to know? If so, go ahead and gather all the information you want. If need be, I shall ask Vibhishana to take you around." Sukha and Sarana hardly wanted to see anything. Instead, what they wanted was to be set free immediately. Recognizing that, Rama said, "Don't worry, you both shall soon return safely. But when you go back, I want you to give Ravana this message. Tell your king, you can defend as much as you want, but tomorrow we begin our onslaught on Lanka. And once the battle gets underway, it is only a matter of time before you taste total defeat and utter ruin." Touched by Rama's magnanimity, Sukha and Sarana hailed him with the words, "Victory is yours." They then rushed back to Ravana's court and gave a bone-chilling account of Rama's strength and the might of his army. They concluded, however unpleasant it might be, it is best and wise to immediately restore Sita and make peace with Rama. Wanting to check out things for himself, Ravana then went to the roof of his huge and fabulous palace, from where, along with some of his senior ministers and commanders, he surveyed the adversary's army camped far in the distance. Turning to Sarana, Ravana then asked him to identify the various leaders and battle commanders, which Sarana did in detail, pointing out who was Sugriva, who was Angada, etc., not omitting to identify Hanuman, who had earlier given so much trouble. Sarana did not stop with mere identification but followed it up with a detailed account of the individual strength of each of these great warriors, recalling in the process their earlier feats and victories. Winding up his description, Sarana said to Ravana, "O great king, these then are our mighty foes, all set to destroy Lanka in its entirety the moment they enter our great city. Their power of destruction is great, and it would be foolish on our part to underestimate their strength." As if to reiterate the point, Sukha added some more chilling remarks, drawing particular attention to the capabilities and valor of Lakshmana. In his heart of hearts, Ravana knew that disaster was staring in his face, but blinded by ego, he rubbished what Sarana and Sukha told him and sent a new group of spies. They too were spotted by Vibhishana, spared by Rama, and allowed to return safely back to Ravana's camp. And the news they brought was in no way comforting. Rama and his army, they reported, were now camped near the Suvela mountain and preparing to march towards Lanka itself. It was best, they suggested, that before Rama reaches the outer periphery, Sita be restored to him and peace made. Otherwise, it would be war, followed by annihilation. That was the choice available, and it was up to Ravana to decide. Clearly, the news about the strength of the enemy was far from good. Greatly perturbed, Ravana dismissed the spies, called his ministers for consultation, and after giving them some orders, allowed his thoughts to turn to Sita. Wanting to frighten her, he summoned Vidyut Jivva, a Rakshasa skilled in conjuring and sorcery, and said to him, "I want you, drawing upon all the skills at your command, to produce at once a mighty bow and what appears like the head of Rama." Vidyut Jiva soon appeared with what Ravana wanted, and pleased with what his sorcerer had produced, Ravana richly rewarded him. Taking the objects produced by trickery, Ravana then made his way to Ashokavana to confront Sita. Standing before her and trying to appear as impressive as possible, Ravana said, "O foolish woman, I have news for you. That husband of yours has been killed in battle, accompanied by a huge army gathered for him by Sugriva, Rama entered Lanka and camped by the seashore. When my spies reported this to me, my army, led by Prahasta, carried out an onslaught at night when Rama and all the members of his army were asleep. In no time at all, Rama's forces were totally annihilated. Meanwhile, Prahasta personally beheaded Rama and took possession of his bow. Pausing for a moment, Ravana asked an attendant to bring the severed head of Rama and the bow. Displaying them proudly to Sita, he roared, "What more proof do you want? Do you realize that the best course open to you now is to submit to me totally and unconditionally? If you do, I shall immediately make you the queen of all my consorts. The pride of place is waiting for you, and all you have to do is to submit to my will." Sita was stunned. Not for a moment did she think that this too might be one of Ravana's tricks. Mistakenly believing that what Ravana said was true, she began to weep and wail, lamenting over the cruel turn of events during the last 13 or so years. 3 of them, she said to herself, had left Ayodhya to go on exile. But now only one, Lakshmana, would return to Ayodhya. How cruel fate was! Watching from a distance, Ravana kept wondering whether at last Sita would buckle and yield. Just then, a servant rushed to Ravana's presence and after offering respectful obeisance said, "Lord, your commander-in-chief Prahasta is at the gate of this garden. He does not wish to disturb you but says that he needs an urgent consultation with you that cannot be put off." Sensing that there was a matter of great urgency, Ravana immediately left. A brief discussion with the waiting Prahasta convinced Ravana that he could no longer put off war preparations and commanded forthwith that all soldiers be summoned immediately without being given any reason. Reacting to the command, soldiers appointed for the person began to sound kettle drums everywhere, making people wonder what was happening. Meanwhile, back in Ashokavana, the head of Rama and the bow, both the products of black magic, vanished the moment Ravana left. Seeing Sita in a highly depressed state, Sarama, the wife of Vibhishana, went near Sita, gently stroked her and said softly, "My child, don't worry. Everything is going to work out well because Rama can never be defeated. Have that faith. I am not scared of Ravana, and for you, I do not mind even giving up my life." By the way, that head and bow that Ravana showed were mere conjuring tricks. Rama is very much alive, and so there is plenty of reason for hope. It was at that juncture that both Sarama and Sita heard the sound of kettle drums. Even as Sita looked up wondering what that sound was all about, Sarama said, "That sounding of drums means soldiers are being summoned. In turn, it means that war is imminent. Clearly, Rama is not only safe but right here, ready to rescue you. Meanwhile, pray to the sun god to ensure victory for your husband. By the way, is there anything you want me to do? Should I secretly go to Rama's camp taking a message?" Wiping her tears and thanking Sarama, Sita said, "No, Sarama, I don't want you to take that trouble. Just find out what Ravana is up to right now." Sarama immediately left, gathered all the information she could, and returning to Ashokavana gave Sita a detailed account of all that she saw. She ended by saying, "You know something? Ravana's own mother, Kaikasi, advised him to restore you to Rama and make peace with him. But driven by the instinct of self-destruction, Ravana brushed aside good advice. From now on, it's no longer a question of whether Ravana would be killed, but only when he actually would be. Be brave and cheer up, for Rama would soon take you back to Ayodhya." Back in the palace, Ravana was seated with his counselors even as the soldiers were being summoned and asked to get into formations. During the discussions that took place, Ravana's maternal grandfather, Malyavan, stood up and said, "That monarch is wise, who is able to gauge the strength of his enemies and decide on war versus peace on that basis. Otherwise, his subjects cannot enjoy peace and prosperity. In this particular case, I feel that you simply cannot match Rama and his army. Going to war with Rama would therefore be utterly foolish. Given the circumstances, it is best for you to restore Sita and make peace. Be warned that Rama is none other than Lord Vishnu himself, come down in human form. News of the great feats Rama had performed thus far has already reached us. Keeping that in mind, be busy doing that which is good for the future. Once more had Ravana been given sound advice, and once more he rejected it. When ego dominates, it blinds reason, spurring desire and arrogance. And that exactly was what was happening now. As is always the case, the one madly driven by ego is hardly aware that he is writing his own death warrant. Meanwhile, going up to the top of the Suvela mountain, the Vanaras in Rama's army were busy surveying the layout of Lanka. Vibhishana too was active in his own way, sending the 4 ministers who came with him to actually enter Lanka and gather information. Assuming the form of birds, they did exactly that and soon reported back to Vibhishana about the preparations being made by Ravana. Based on the intelligence report he received, Vibhishana promptly briefed Rama, following which Rama issued detailed orders about how Lanka would be attacked at all the 4 gates. This done, Rama went to the mountain top so that he too could have a direct though distant view of the enemy country and its fortification. Strategic surveys completed, everyone spent that night right on the mountain top. As a new day dawned, a few Vanara brigades, with Sugriva's permission, entered the outskirts of Lanka for exploration, while Rama, Lakshmana, Sugriva and all other senior members of Rama's army continued their watch from the mountain top. Suddenly, both Rama and Sugriva spotted Ravana far in the distance. The Rakshasa king had climbed to the top of one of the gates of the city to do exactly what Rama was doing, namely survey from a distance. The very sight of Ravana infuriated Sugriva so much that with one mighty leap he was in Ravana's immediate presence. And before the demon king knew what was happening, Sugriva seized Ravana's coronet and flung it on the ground, even as he hurled insults. The two then wrestled fiercely until Ravana became exhausted. Sugriva then rose triumphantly into the air and returned to where Rama was. The manner in which Sugriva showed Ravana his place during the wrestling bout created much excitement among the troops, who now began to itch for action. Rama, however, was not pleased. He said, "Sugriva, do you realize what a great risk you took? You are a king, and monarchs are not supposed to engage lightly in daredevilry. Their job is to command and lead. I am here because of you. What would have been my state if something happened to you? Your soldiers report to you and not to me, and without you, what would happen to my mission to rescue Sita?" A chastened Sugriva then apologized, adding that he was simply carried away by the sight of that cruel evildoer who had put Mother Sita to such pain and suffering. It was time for action, and coming down from the mountain, Rama, followed by Lakshmana, Sugriva, Vibhishana, Hanuman, Jambavan and others, marched towards Lanka. The army of Vanaras presented an amazing sight, with each Vanara looking as big as an elephant and carrying either a huge rock or a full-grown tree as a weapon. Rama headed towards the northern gate, because that was where Ravana had positioned himself for defending the city. Nala, the valiant commander-in-chief of the Vanaras, stationed himself near the eastern gate, while the western gate became Hanuman's objective. The fabulous city of Lanka, built on Mount Trikuta, was now besieged by Rama and his mighty army, converging from various directions. Everything was set for the battle to commence, even as Rama gave last-minute instructions. At that juncture, Vibhishana made a submission to Rama, acting on which Rama signaled to Angada to come forward and said, "Son, it's time to announce ourselves and give formal notice to the enemy about the declaration of war." Be fearless, gain entry to Ravana's presence, and give him this message from him. Tell him, the time has finally arrived for you to pay for all the sins you have committed thus far. Meet me in combat and be ready to face the consequences. Angada then rose into the air and was soon in Ravana's presence. Announcing himself as Rama's envoy and the son of Vali who once struck terror in Ravana's heart, Angada delivered the message adding, unless you return Sita immediately and atone for your evil deeds in an appropriate manner, death shall be your fate, and Vibhishana would replace you as the king of Lanka. One more time had Ravana been warned, and one more time he angrily rubbished the advice. On Ravana's command, his guards tried to apprehend Angada. However, inflicting punishing blows on the Rakshasas, Angada easily escaped. As Angada flew back, he was lustily cheered and welcomed. And when he reported on Ravana's response, everyone realized that the point of no return had been crossed. The Vanaras surrounding the city wall then gave a blood-curdling cry that sent shivers among the demons deputed to guard the city perimeter. On a signal from Rama, the assault on Lanka finally commenced from all sides. There was fierce fighting everywhere, with those having the upper hand raising slogans of victory while those injured groaned in pain. It was a gruesome sight with blood flowing all over the place. Even as ordinary soldiers on either side tangled with their counterparts, the leaders and commanders on the two sides engaged in one-to-one combat. Thus, Angada took on the fearsome Indrajit, Hanuman battled with Jambumali, Sugriva battled with Pragasa, Lakshmana engaged Virupaksha, and so on. Every encounter was ferocious, with neither combatant giving in easily. As night fell, Ravana's troops suffered heavy casualties, and the battlefield presented a ghastly sight. The onset of darkness did not stop the fighting, and it continued with one interesting difference. Whenever a Vanara saw a form it was unable to recognize, he would ask, "Are you a demon?" Similarly, the Rakshasas would ask, "Are you a Vanara?" It was only after the identity was clearly established and friend distinguished from foe that the fight ensued. Despite the handicap of poor lighting, the nocturnal engagement proved to be as fierce and bloody as the battle fought during daytime. In the battle between Angada and Indrajit, the latter steadily lost ground, in spite of the fact that as a Rakshasa his power and strength actually increased during night. Finally, even as all the Vanaras watching the gory fight cheered, the famous Indrajit was utterly routed in the face-to-face combat. Feeling totally humiliated and wild with rage, Indrajit turned to magic, in which he was very proficient. Making himself invisible, he now began to rain arrows on Rama and Lakshmana, eventually trapping them in a grill built up from arrows. I think I shall stop here for the day. I am indeed grateful to all of you out there listening to us. And let me take this opportunity to say that the mails you are sending are giving us much encouragement to enhance the quality of our service. Indeed, it's a great privilege to be of service to all of you out there who are so far away physically and yet are able to be close to Swami via the various links we provide. At this point, I would just say that just as the Vanaras took special birth in order to serve Lord Rama at a critical juncture in the fight against evil, so too should we Sai devotees regard ourselves. On several occasions, Swami has specifically spelled out what our role ought to be in today's troubled world. There is no question that currently humanity is facing all sorts of crises. People ask, why is not Swami doing anything about it? No one asks, why are we not doing anything about it? Remember, in the Mahabharata, Krishna did not ever fight. That was over in Rama Avatar. Krishna just gave guidance and left it to the Pandavas to clean up the mess. In this yuga, a lot of mess has been created with almost everyone contributing to it, including us. But what are we doing about cleaning up the mess? What are we doing to strengthen Dharma in society? I do hope that listening to this series triggers his thoughts. If you have any comments to offer in this context, I would be happy to hear from you. That's all for today. As always, I offer this talk at the lotus feet of Bhagavan. Jai Sai Ram.